We're so glad that you've decided to spend some time with us this afternoon. If you've been in professional services for really any amount of time, you know this world. We know how to implement technology, and we've done it hundreds of times across every platform imaginable. And if I had a nickel for every time I saw digital transformation on somebody's LinkedIn profile, and I can guarantee it's on mine, so no shade. But what we're all discovering is that agentic AI asks something different than what digital transformation asked of us before. Agentic AI doesn't just change the tools, it changes the way the whole business operates. And we don't have these detailed project plans with go-live dates and dependencies. Change management doesn't work anymore. We need change activation because this touches roles, workflows, decision-making, motivation, confidence, everything that sits at the heart of how teams show up and deliver value. Beyond digital transformation, this is an orchestration layer for your entire business. So today, you're going to hear from people who've spent their careers helping organizations transform. We've seen what works, what doesn't, and what it really takes to move humans and technology forward together. Let's start by introducing who's on the line today. My name is Melody Benteler, and I'm the Chief Services Officer at Moonnox.
I'm Marissa Bowman. I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Moonnox.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lacey Van Syckle. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Penrod, and I'm really responsible for leading our executive team to empower exceptional experiences for our healthcare customers. And then prior to this role, I spent about 8 years leading Penrod's professional services team.
All right, thank you. So you heard me talk about AI orchestration. The firms that are thinking that way are ahead of the market, and they're our customers. One of our customers has been using Moonnox across the sales and delivery motion, and they're now totally rethinking how their work gets designed, documented, and delivered. Instead of reinventing the wheel, Moonnox creates an orchestrated intelligence layer where everything, past projects, their insights, their proposal, it all becomes instantly searchable and reusable. So their sales engineers build on what already works. And what used to take days or weeks now takes significantly less time. And every document reflects their firm's unique methodology and voice. When the deal closes, delivery inherits all that context, what the client valued, what was promised, who those key stakeholders are. So teams start informed, which means fewer billing misses, clearer scoping, and stronger delivery outcomes. And when we do that at scale, when we do that over and over again, the role of the consultant starts to look a little different. The CEO of this firm is already thinking about what a consultant looks like for him in this new world. The future consultant is a different kind of problem solver, and it's somebody who understands the customer's context, not just this list of deliverables and requirements, and knows how to harness AI as part of how they are delivering outcomes. And what that means practically for him and his firm is these skills that he wants to build for, that he wants to hire for, the way that he thinks about his operating model starts to shift. For example, a sales engineer might be compensated differently. The skills of that consultant push towards context engineering, deeper strategic thinking, higher levels of communication and engagement, these uniquely human skills.
Another CEO shared a perspective that really stood out to me. With Moonnox, their firm was delivering exponential value. They're connecting multiple technologies and unlocking value across the stack. Because of that, they're able to understand their customers from every angle and uncover new insights that used to be hidden between silos. With Moonnox now as that shared platform, all of their work streams operate off of a single source of truth. The friction of sending messages between teams, chasing down contexts and bread accounts, relying on someone's memory, right? All of that disappears. They're creating an organizational memory where they can move faster, smarter, and spend more time focusing on outcomes that truly matter to their customers. And he talked about how this clarity and efficiency has multiplied their impact, not just in cost savings, but in creativity. Their teams can now ask better questions. They're sharper. Is there a more efficient way to deliver the same outcomes? Can we go beyond and actually help innovate and help our customers perform better?
And let that sink in. This CEO is talking about the business value of his consultants being more creative. And when we think about that, when we think about the future of consulting work, it's those skills that really stand out and differentiate, those deeply human skills. If we think about creativity as that practice of reinvention, what could that do to your people, your service offerings, your competitive position? Those skills like creativity, curiosity, critical thinking, those become a competitive advantage. And that's the real mindset shift. That's what we want to hone in on today. Yes, Moonnox is a platform that changes professional services for the better. And it's not just turning on a new agent and moving on with your day. This is a transformation that transcends technology. It touches on your operating model, go-to-market strategy, pricing approach, your hiring, your tech stack, you name it.
Amazing. We are thankful to have a customer here with us today, Lacey, who has lived this alongside us. So let's hear from her. Lacey, what pain was Penrod experience that led you to Moonnox?
Yeah, I think similar to some of the stories that you guys already shared, we had four key just like challenges that I'm sure a lot of you face in your business today that we were really looking to solve with our AI strategy. The first one is that reliance on mindshare from our leaders. I've been at Penrod for a little over 10 years, and a lot of times the questions from either our sales or delivery teams on have we integrated to this system before? Do we have a deployment plan for data cloud? And kind of just that like institutional knowledge that leaders in your business or maybe people who've been really tenured and that are typically your very like highly paid team members are the ones fielding a lot of those. And so we were facing not only the time commitment that it takes to answer all those questions, but it not being something that's repeatable, it being you answer a question in one place to one person and it not kind of creating this as Marissa refers to it as that like organizational what do you call it? Or organizational.
Memory.
I always say mind share memory. Yes, organizational memory. So we were definitely facing that. The second one is on the delivery side. We knew that we had a lot of data that we could be more proactive in our project insights versus reactive to a project that is maybe going in the wrong direction. But what we found is it would take a lot of significant amount of time from our project managers specifically to get that proactive information into our leadership's hands, resulting in us just being a little bit more reactive to project problems than we would like. On the sales team side, we are really looking at scaling our sales team, scaling their knowledge. We focus in healthcare and we provide so many different types of solutions for our healthcare customers. And we were finding that how would we be able to scale our sales team knowledge without having like arduous enablement that truly just goes in one ear and out the other if it's not real-time actionable for the person at that time. And so we felt like we were investing a lot of time in enablement that wasn't truly like sinking in because it wasn't always timely for each AE at each moment. And then the last thing, kind of bringing all of that together and reducing those silos, is we were looking to ensure consistency between our handoffs between different teams, mostly like focusing on obviously sales and delivery, but also in between other areas of our business, even like delivery to finance, and accounting and invoicing and things like that. So looking at how we can ensure kind of consistency in those handoff processes.
The hardest part is always getting started, right? So how did you get started with the implementation?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, especially being professional services leaders, we are in technical projects day in and day out, and I think we sometimes jump right towards solutioning. And we kind of throw to the wind the advice that we constantly give our own customers on, you have to start with planning before you really dive in. So I took this opportunity to really think, like, what would I tell one of our customers to do in this scenario? So that started out for us with building the why and what we want to achieve with AI, and really thinking further than just like reducing time. Obviously, that's a really large advantage of utilizing AI, but trying to think further than that of just reducing time. How can we use this to enhance our customers' experience, enhance our team members' experience, and then provide them with like growth opportunities so they can spend more time in, like you all were mentioning earlier, in creative problem solving versus like tactical actions. Um, and so that's kind of where we started, is that like why and what. Um, we thought about assigning a leader of the initiative. So that ended up being me. So really identifying who is that executive sponsor from our business that will oversee backlog strategy, kind of making sure we're moving forward in the right manner. And then lastly, the one thing I did before we even started building a backlog, not only did the Moonnox team help me just with a survey to get some insight from my team, but I also sat down with people from each key function of our business to understand what areas they thought AI could support, and got just a little bit under the covers to see and have them show me what type of activities they're doing day in and day out to start kind of thinking through where we could have the most impact.
How did you pick your first use case?
Yeah, this is another example where I took the what we preach to our customers kind of to heart. What we always tell our customers when it comes to AI is it really starts with data integrity, and data that you can trust. Otherwise, in any industry, you lose trust with AI really quickly. So what we did is we looked at a use case where we were really confident in the process that we had today. We knew that we had the data and the information in mostly centralized locations, or at least we could identify like where that information comes from. And then also we looked at like what is one use case that we could easily fit in naturally with our team's current ways of working. So what would require maybe just like a slight change of how someone works versus a massive like process improvement. So where could we just like quickly slide something in for value for them there?
Awesome. Okay, we talked about your use case. What about your users? So can you tell us about your launch approach? How did you get to the people that would be part of this first use case?
Yeah, so our first use case was, we call it Go Fetch, but what it really is like, think about it as like a global Penrod search. So it solves that first problem that I talked about we were facing, is that organizational, like that institutional knowledge, and being able to spread that institutional knowledge out. So what I started with is um, on the what I would call like our Moonnox project team side, is identifying those internal champions that we would have. So I looked at our team members who were already tinkering with AI like on their own, were really interested in AI and potentially growth in AI, and identified those team members. I thought it was important to look at not only people like on the technical side, but also in the different operations parts of our business. So for the sales team, that was looping in our sales operations manager Kim. On the delivery side, that was getting our delivery ops manager who's responsible for like resourcing SLAs, reporting on the delivery side engaged, and then looked at determining power users in our other team members. So started with figuring out who's going to be on like the core project team, and then who did I know would promote, adopt, and lead by example from a power user side. So really, like I've kind of mentioned before, using the best practices that we coach our customers on and taking that advice to ourselves. And then I think the other approach of like how we got the team engaged is I also made sure that the rest of our leadership team was really bought in and promoted the concept of us leading by example in these initiatives, showing our team members what we could use with AI, being vulnerable, and even doing our AI prompts in front of the entire company, in front of the team, to lead by example there.
Amazing. And I mean, even that is an element of change, doing those prompts in front of everybody, co-creating this process together. So what was the change like for your people? What kind of questions were they asking along the way?
Yeah, so that the first agent that we rolled out, that like institutional knowledge, our Go Fetch agent, was really first more about changing habits. So a lot of times those questions, we use Slack in our organization, and a lot of times those questions would be thrown out in DMs to someone in Slack, or like an at channel in some of our either revenue or delivery team channels. So the first thing that we did was really focus on changing habits. So like I was mentioning before, showing them what the tool could do. My on the sales side, myself and our chief revenue officer Drew would ask our questions publicly. We had a little bit of like a joking culture in our company where previously, if someone would ask a question that you could easily Google, we would do the whole like, let me Google that for you joke. So we also were able to like turn it into a joke, and it would be like, oh, let me go fetch that for you, which is why we named the agent that way. So if we saw some of our team members kind of, reverting back into what they've been used to and just asking channel, we would just copy the question and do at Go Fetch in that same channel with the same question to really kind of facilitate and show the use of that. And really focused on making sure we exemplified the behavior that we wanted. We also asked our super users when they were testing to use the agents publicly in public Slack channels, so other people could see the questions they were asking, how they were prompting, and what answers they got. And then we made sure up front that we really had a good process to like test and quickly make adjustments. I think most of the testing and adjustments that we made were around what data sources we were using, or recognizing that some of the questions that we had, the answers maybe didn't live where we thought they would. So we did some, data management there. And I think the other thing that we did to promote the change is clearly identify for our team what our first agent was going to be really, really good at and what it was going to be bad at. So they would know what types of questions to use it for. They would know how to treat that agent in a way, so they weren't getting mistrust by using the agent for something that it actually wasn't truly meant for. And then I think to the back half of your question, Melody, around what questions they were asking, I think most of the questions that we got were always around like the best way to prompt. So in that leading by example, if we saw someone prompting the agent and you could read the question and kind of know what they were getting at, but then see that maybe the agent wasn't giving the best response because the prompt wasn't good, we would actually reprompt for that person and say, hey, I'm going to try asking this a different way because I think this is kind of what you're getting at, to kind of train people on the prompting side. Some other questions that they had that we documented for everyone was what data sources were being used for what agents, and then also providing examples of advice of where they could use it in their day-to-day lives. So for example, as our team started working more in account planning, and I knew they were working on that account planning part of it, we would actually ask questions about different accounts and account planning, like on behalf of the salesperson, to just emulate that for them. Anytime that we as a leadership team recognized that this agent could do something way better or differently than we've experienced before, we would say, hey guys, this week, hot tip, like, did you know that this agent can answer these questions? Let me show you, and kind of bringing that into their day-to-day lives.
Amazing. You covered so much ground in that question.
Yeah.
And we're, to our audience, there's a lot that we'll circle back on when we touch on some key principle of this and the way that we're thinking about change activation in this new way. And shameless plug, Lacey, thank you for highlighting our Moonnox to Slack connector. But the last thing you said was about your leadership team. And really, there's an element of leading from the front here when it comes to AI adoption. And that's not, honestly, that's not new with any sort of adoption. But what's unique here is your role as a COO, because what we've seen with our customers is there's lots of exec sponsors that are really touching on all these different C-suite roles, because like we've been saying, this is a transformation that impacts your entire business orchestration. So from your perspective as CEO, what has been that unique flavor as you have been leading this within Penrod?
Yeah, so I think two things there. Part of my role is I lead our strategy initiatives. So I have insight into, or I help develop the insight of kind of where we're going and what we're doing. So I had the unique perspective of really in any of our strategy conversations or in my one-on-ones with the other executive leaders on my team, was able to kind of insert where AI could support. And what that really did is create this conversation where instead of me having to remind everyone, like, hey, we could try to use a platform, it started being like in our team meetings, oh, hey, do you think we could add that to our Moonnox backlog? Or hey, I think as I'm rolling out this process, we'll roll it out phase one, make sure it works, and I think I want to incorporate that. And then I think also kind of having that focus in the top level of our organization helped us make sure that we weren't creating silos between our teams, to be able to really kind of incorporate that strategy as we went. I also have the privilege and the benefit of I've been at Penrod since we were pretty small and only a couple years into the business. So I also was able to see those like puzzle pieces. But I think other roles that could be really successful is anyone who's leading operations, and honestly, it doesn't even have to be a specific role, but someone who is really excited and interested and curious on your various leadership teams, and someone who has that innate unique skill of just bringing people from different teams together. So I don't necessarily think it needs to be a title or a specific role, but just kind of someone's like personality and interests in what they're really good at.
Yeah, and we talk about, Lacey, we tell our customers, and I think you've lived this really well, like you actually have to spend time with the agents, right? And make the bandwidth and the capacity. So I like how you built that habit and you're keeping AI front and center, but I've seen how you really dedicate time to these agents, and that's paying dividends. So where are you today? How many agents are there, and what's the impact that they're having at Penrod?
Yeah, so we've really taken like a iterative development approach and done a lot of tinkering. So the three agents that we've more fully released, I'll go into, but just also want to note we have a lot of like things that my team likes to say in beta. We're tinkering around with it for one project, see if it works. Before we kind of roll it out. So the three I've talked a lot about Go Fetch, or that like internal search knowledge. I think where that's helped us is faster like sales response time. So when our prospects ask a question around, do you have a reference for this use case, or have we ever done this type of integration? Instead of it maybe taking a day for someone to see that question respond, they're able to actually just more quickly facilitate that conversation with the prospect. And they've also used it for RFP responses, quarterly business review prep, case studies. My leadership team has used it to really sharpen their customer meeting prep instead of having to ask a project team, hey, what's going on with this customer? What are the pain points? We're able to use that agent. We released an opportunity summarizer that really through our activity data in Salesforce updates our opportunity like current and next steps that helps us with forecasting and visibility into predicting opportunity. That one was directly related to reducing time, and I think we reduced maybe close to even half of the amount of time that it was taking people to do that manually and with more accuracy. And the last one was around on our delivery side was around our PMO audit agent. So this agent helps us with understanding customer sentiment, making sure we're compliant with our PMO processes, helps with some of that like proactive project risk mitigation. And then also really, I'm sure you guys all experience this in professional services. We have our resourcing in one spreadsheet. We have our invoicing, and for us, it's in Salesforce and accounting seed. But we have our day-to-day project management in Jira. But then based on our customer, we might be using like different systems here and there. So we also are using that agent to kind of bring together that data from disparate systems to help do some gut checks on just like the health of our internal operations when it comes to project management.
So what are you most proud of as you look back on these successes so far? And then what would you do differently if you were to go back in time?
Yeah, I think what I am most proud of is really how our team, like actually company as a whole, not even just the super users, but as a whole, how my team really rallied around this initiative. They got really excited, really curious. The people who are like really close to the project are always willing to help someone out or show examples. And I also was really proud of how my team started just thinking, oh, could AI help with this? And we're asking the questions and being vulnerable and even being open sometimes to being a guinea pig of just like, they'd ask me a question, say, you know what, I think it can. Let's try it. Like, do you have some time to just try it and see? So I was very proud of that and proud of my team. And I think that led to them really seeing like AI use cases in everything that they do, where now our backlog is, Marissa can attest to this, our backlog is enormous that we're chipping away at as we go. And then to the question of like what I would do differently, specifically honing in on this PMO audit agent, I think one thing we recognized is making sure that our project processes were really clear, and more importantly, that we had information in the right location on that one. I think we made some assumptions of a leadership team that where all of our like project data was living. And we assumed, I think, that we had a little bit more consistency than we recognized. So that one has been a little bit more delayed, just from recognizing that we need to get that like data management kind of in place before we can really see the optimization of that agent.
Great. So what's next in regards to your agents and your plan for 2026?
Yeah, on the sales side, we're looking at creating more targeted agents for our account planning process. We work really closely with some of the top 100 hospital systems throughout the U.S. And one thing that's really important to us is being able to navigate throughout those organizations. So focusing on some support and account planning. SOW creation is something that we're starting to, like I mentioned before, tinker with, test and measure with one project or with one prospect right now. And then also building agents to do more sales assistance. So a little bit more pushing to our sales team versus a co-pilot model where they're asking questions to an agent, having an agent doing more push of information at the right times and in the right place to kind of support them in their processes. On the delivery side, we are looking at agents for scope management to kind of help triage, customer asks for something. Hey, is this really in scope? Do we need to have a conversation about change order? So instead of someone scrolling through the endless list of user stories or changes to user stories, having an agent that was able to help better highlight, like, oh, is this something we already have in scope? Is this something that's maybe a change in scope or a change in requirement? Generating status reports, and then kind of working through assistance in some of our discovery deliverables. So really kind of optimizing the value we can provide to our customers.
Amazing. Well, you make it look easy, Lacey. Thank you. It's been great partnering with you. Now that you've heard the Penrod success story, we want to roll this up a level with what we're calling change activation and talk about what we're recommending that you think about as we go through this major shift. We're really looking at a mindset shift. As Lacey mentioned, she started very narrow and deep. She didn't try to boil the ocean. She didn't go broad and shallow. Pick one use case to start. It sounds simple, but where we see a lot of success is when companies have confidence in their data, they have confidence in their process, they can choose a promising opportunity and nail it. So it gives you the opportunity to learn the fundamentals and go deep enough to be successful. You're going to become a master in that first use case. So you're going to be writing prompts, you're going to be tweaking, you're going to be bumping into problems that don't feel right. And you're going to understand that you're not getting to 100%, but you're going to be deep enough to push out a result. We know that ROI is promised to firms that go narrow and deep. When we go broad and shallow, we get distracted, we get pulled into different things, and we tend not to launch. So I want you, as you take some homework today, pop open this article from Harvard Business School that is titled "Stop Running So Many Pilots." And this will give you some more fodder around picking that promising use case to start. And number two, think platform, not point solutions. So we're not just adding AI on top of existing silos, right? We're avoiding those AI islands and the disconnected tools that's trapping knowledge. We're actually rolling up a level to think about our customers' experience and the orchestration layer that's really unifying the business. We're connecting to tools that you already have. So in Penrod's case, it was really simple. It was Slack and Google Drive to start. We weren't doing any wild integrations day one. And that built a ramp for that success. We weren't trying to replace a big stack all at once, right? And then I'm always telling my customers, slow down to speed up. There is pressure to adopt AI. We all feel it, but we don't have to do everything all at once. We are going to build a foundation that will compound over time, and speed will follow. So we set really realistic timelines. You'll see us pull up very simple project plans that we can rally around. And then we bake in that consensus building. We make sure that everyone's on the same page, knowing who's doing what. And sometimes that feels a little bit slow to start, but that will help us activate change in a much more powerful way.
And with that, it's about embracing progress over perfection. You heard me allude to it before. We don't have these detailed project plans, these long project plans with dates and dependencies. Yes, there's a framework, but you cannot spec this all up front. And perfect is not adaptable. And we need to be adaptable when we're doing this type of change activation. Your roadmap will change, and that's the point, because we're learning along the way. We've all heard the term MVP, minimal viable product. I've even started to say MEP, we'll see if this catches on, minimum evolvable product, because that's really this mindset shift that we're talking about here. And all of these different things can create fear. I've been surprised that not every organization has it, but plenty of them do. And it's real. People are afraid of their jobs, and that deserves acknowledgement. The answer is not avoidance. It's embedding feedback loops throughout your business, throughout the whole process, just like we heard from Lacey. Working on psychological safety, if that's an element of your culture, really removing that fear of failure, because that will slow you down, that will hold you back, and embracing experimentation. One of our customers is fostering trust by using this light switch analogy. And they're saying it's not a light switch. We're not just going to turn on Moonnox on Tuesday and everything's going to be fine and dandy. We know that AI has to learn. We actually talk about our agents as a brand new, brilliant employee. It's somebody you hired, somebody you wanted to work with. They need a great manager to give them feedback and coach them, and time to learn your business. So it's not just that light switch. We get there by interacting with it, prompting it. Again, just like what we heard from Lacey. Lastly, make context your competitive advantage. We know that AI capabilities are commoditizing rapidly. Everyone's using them for everything, it seems like. But what's not commoditized is a professional services firm's unique methodology, your institutional knowledge, your organizational memory, your approach. And the firms that will win are those who teach AI their unique ways of working. And that's new. All of this is new. I said lastly, but it wasn't lastly. We have more. Go ahead, Lacey.
Yeah, and I think, I kind of mentioned this a little bit in our story, but some of the other change activation principles is like I mentioned, designating that AI leader. I think it, although you want participation across your organization, I haven't seen that releasing AI can really be done fully by committee or as like a side project. It doesn't have to be your full-time gig. I think at the beginning, I probably spent a little bit more time, but now I'm maybe 4 to 6 hours a week, kind of focusing on this. Sometimes for people's growth, that can evolve into full time, but it just really depends kind of on what makes sense to your organization. Um, but really determining someone who has interest, is excited about it, can see the cross-functional impacts across your organization versus in one specific silo. Typically, like I mentioned before, you can see these team members coming from delivery ops, methodology roles, and I think some of the key responsibilities that I took on is really partnering with the vendors such as Moonnox, promoting that change, so leading by example, and making sure you're measuring ROI, which I'll get to in a second. And I think having this person really becoming your center of excellence. So one change that it really helped me with as a leader is focusing on enabling everyone else versus being the doer, which I think is something that we sometimes face as we sit in leadership roles. So this has actually helped me really solidify that. I think if you're looking for some more advice on this, I know the Moonnox team is doing a webinar about creating an office of AI in your organization upcoming, so keep an eye out for that. Going back to that ROI side, making KPIs non-negotiable, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're throwing out measurement here. You're looking to define success metrics tied to your business outcomes. One thing we like to do is track both adoption and business impacts. Like I mentioned, thinking about improvements you can make that are beyond just saving your team's time. So for us, it's where can we provide more creative, where people are able to focus on more creative problem solving, more contextual growth with our customers versus like tactical side. And then this is something that has just stuck with me so much that Marissa has shared with me, is really treating your agents as members of your team. So when we look at our agents, we think about what is their job function and their job role, how do we train and grow them, how do we give them these agents, right, growth opportunities and improvement, and how do we make sure that we're consistently tracking their performance as well throughout that process. And then the last thing really is iterating and evolving. So we have we call it test and measure in our business, and really that focuses on starting small, learning fast, making sure you're building feedback loops into your implementation. So being able to show changes or show improvements, and measuring, again, going back to the measurement, adoption metrics, business outcomes. So using those as key metrics to iterate and evolve, and then reviewing and adjusting regularly based on teams' needs. I think more than anything, we have a backlog and we have ideal goals of what we're doing next, but we've been pretty quick to pivot if we've recognized that there's better business impact elsewhere or something a little bit more timely in front of us. And so being open to evolve and iterate. I think this is something where I say our roadmap is like very much a suggested roadmap, and it's like we would like to get these agents done in the next 6 months, but what we find is we start working on them, maybe we're kind of shuffle things around based on business impact and based on what's timely for our business. So I think more than any of our other internal initiatives, really being open to that being a consistent like evolution. We do it very much in a sprint-based methodology. I say sprint-based very loosely, but in that like iterative methodology for us.
Thank you, Lacey.
Awesome. So let's bring this all together with our platform, right? And you see the great work that we get to do. It's absolutely fascinating, and we can rely on a platform that's super powerful. We now have the ability to gather intelligence from everywhere, from our meetings, our calls, our emails, external sources. Some of our customers are using MCP. We're collecting all of that and we're contextualizing it, as Melody said, with your unique methodology, your institutional knowledge, that organizational memory. And we're able to surface insights in the natural path of work for sales and delivery. And this requires orchestration, right? That context engine. And we're not here to sell you another tool. We're here to arm you with the thinking, with the thought leadership and the language to approach your business through actual change and look like a superhero doing it.
I'm going to wrap us up here in just a minute, and I'm going to plant the seed that will open it up for Q&A. So if you have questions for Lacey or Marissa and I, get those drafted. So our point for today is that AI orchestration is change activation in a new way. Moonnox is reshaping how professional services firms operate, from sales to delivery, from roles to workflows, from how decisions get made to how value is created. And what we're seeing with these firms pulling ahead, like Penrod, they're treating this as a business-wide orchestration, not just another tool to plug in. We've seen that success requires starting narrow and deep, being really, really specific, embracing iteration, and giving someone clear ownership as an AI transformation leader. Those human skills, creativity, curiosity, critical thinking, those become your superpower in a world where most firms are using the same ChatGPT prompts as everyone else. With Moonnox, you gain a partner who understands professional services. We've all been there, We can help preserve that unique secret sauce, your unique ways of working, help you build the context, the governance, and momentum that you need to scale. And we've got some calls to action. We have a newsletter coming out next month. Keep your eye out for that. We do it monthly. We'll have a product webinar in December. Anytime you want to see a demo, have a discovery call, meet with us. We're easy to find. Thank you, Lacey, for giving us your time and sharing the Penrod story. Thank you, Marissa, for facilitating this. And thank you all for attending. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for Q&A. What do you got?
And as a shameless plug, or not shameless plug, as you guys are working on Q&A, feel free to kind of connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to talk with other leaders in professional services on what we're kind of doing in this space. So as another small call to action, feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. Lacey, there's a question, might be to you. So I want to start there. How did you get leadership and teams truly bought in to adopting AI?
Yeah, I think for us, we made it a little bit of a non-negotiable in a way, as in it wasn't are we going to, it was we are, and what is the best way for us to do it. I think the other spot is instead of focusing on, obviously, you can impact a lot of internal workflows, but we really looked at it as how can we impact our customers and our prospects, and how can we use it to really scale. I think the hardest thing to get the team bought in is changing that behavior and having the time commitment. So also part of it was us. We do quarterly business planning, and I think in almost every single quarter this year, we've had at least one quarterly goal that was somehow tied to our overall AI initiative. And so when we set our annual goals for 2025, simplifying and automating spots in our business was one of those goals. So I think really starting from the top of it, just being inherent in the goals and the initiatives that you have in your organization to get everyone kind of on board. And then, as anything in leadership and getting your leadership team compensating for positive results in that space too.
Inspect what you expect.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the audience? All right, I'm not seeing anything else come in through chat. Oh, we just got one. Okay, once AI is embedded into capabilities, how does it change project economics in terms of margins, utilization rates, or how you price engagements?
Do you want me to take that one? And then maybe Marissa can add her ideas too.
Yeah,
This is a great question. I'll be really honest, Thomas. It's something that we are still kind of figuring out. Right now, we're utilizing our AI capabilities as a tool in our toolbox to kind of reduce cost and time in our projects. So we're using it for customers to kind of help them stay within budget and things like that by using these tools, like current state, while we're still kind of determining what our full suite of agents are going to be. But as we look in the future, I think AI, in my opinion, is going to really change what professional services can look like. It's going to change the skill sets that your team is going to need to understand. It's going to change a little bit the way they work and more focus on creative problem solving. So the things that my team is thinking about that we're figuring out is where do we look at changing our model from being purely T&M to being more in a I don't want to say fixed price. If any of my customers aren't here hearing this, I'm not promising that, but in more of a fixed price engagement. So we're providing and focusing more on providing outcomes than just time from our people. I don't know if that kind of helps answer that question. So we don't have it fully figured out for utilization. We still expect the same type of like billable timing from our people. I think what we're looking at for them to do is spending that time in more customer facing activities versus behind the scene operational activities. So it's not necessarily reducing the amount of time they're billing with their customers, but it's increasing the value of that time with their customers. So our customers aren't paying for internal tactical actions, and they're really paying for that creative consulting and problem solving.
I would just mention on the utilization front, we worked with one customer who has a resource management agent for staffing, and their charter was to turn around just an antiquated, mundane process with a lot of internal meetings, a lot of noise, a lot of data. And they simplify that approach by letting the Moonnox agent take a first pass at skills and certifications and resumes and proposing options. And they saw that they actually decreased their onboarding time and the number of days, but they also could look at things like util impacts, right? Like, what was util before the agent was introduced to the business, and is the agent helping them get the right people in the right place at the right time even faster? So when we look at your question, which is really good, I think that agent's a really good model of what's possible, taking those really mundane processes and modernizing them in Moonnox.
Yeah. And I want to add to that and kind of segue into this question that came in from Chuck. Thank you. About KPIs. So he asked, what's one KPI that tied to AI that you're a fan of? For example, reduced proposal turnaround time. Could you share a favorite example? So I will answer that in a way that kind of outlines the approach that we're taking. So we have a business outcomes framework where we're setting things up in, we're probably all consultants here, crawl, walk, run approach. Have you ever heard of it? So crawl, walk, run. And the first metrics we're starting to see are these operational efficiencies and sentiment metrics. So for example, that client that Marissa was just mentioning, they reduced their allocation cycle time by 90%. Like, it was huge. We see customers who are doing twice as many RFPs than they did before, with the potential to capture so much more of the market, really doubling that productivity in the top of the funnel. So these are the things that we're seeing very, very soon, like 90 days post going live with these agents. So we're looking at these operational, these efficiency, these sentiment metrics before we ultimately get to velocity, revenue, average contract value, increasing one close. Like, all of these different metrics are coming down the line, and we're starting to see how our customers are breaking into these new ways of capturing value with a business process that started as something quite simple. So I think it's such a light bulb moment too, to hear how relieved a team might be, whether it's sales or delivery or an operations team, that a painful process or something like staffing, where it takes 30 man hours to staff a project, goes down to 2. Like, what I can do with my time, how I can be more strategic, how I can just enjoy this process so much more, has really made a huge difference. I have a question here for Lacey. So Lacey, with Moonnox working with other customers that can be direct competitors to Penrod, what made your team feel comfortable with Moonnox?
Yeah, a couple of things here, and so let me just go back to one of the reasons why we decided to use Moonnox as our platform, and it is because the platform is seeped in knowledge and professional services. I don't feel like I have to explain to Marissa and Melody, Robert, David, the rest of the team, SAR, like what we do. It's more I can explain what we maybe do differently. And so we knew that picking a professional services platform meant that Moonnox's other customers were going to also be in that space. And so I think what made us feel really comfortable is they understand what professional services looks like. They understand competitive advantages that different partners can have. And I felt really supported in that. And I think lastly, one of our culture aspects here at Penrod is we do a lot of sharing with other partners. So for me personally, it wasn't something that I was super concerned about because I've always kind of been very open to sharing best practices. I think in this ecosystem, the better we each individually do and help each other do just makes the ecosystem easier, better. And I'm of the belief of like there's so much business to kind of go around. How do we all make sure that that business is kind of coming in our collective general ways? I don't know if that fully answers the question, but I think that the team has always just made me feel comfortable in our playbook, our focus, and kind of helping us even create that competitive advantage in some manners. I don't know if that fully answers the question. I think, to be completely honest, it wasn't something that I was like hyper worried about. And the team just naturally made me feel very comfortable with the decision.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, group. I'm going to put one last call out there for Q&A from our panelists. Again, just thank you for joining us today. And I'm so glad we got to hear the Penrod story, how they started, how they got to where they are today, and lots coming down the pipeline. I haven't seen any other questions, so I think we're good to go. Thanks again, everyone. You know where to find us. Cheers.